Good morning. This is the BLAINESWORLD Show, now seen each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. And each week we focus on the Asheville theater scene, as well as on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And to that end, it's my pleasure to introduce two folks involved in a upcoming play at Hendersonville Theater, and they are Heather Denton and Rowan Duncan. And welcome aboard, folks. You can wave to all your fans and friends on Facebook and anybody else watching. And I should mention, in terms of background, Heather is directing the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee at Hendersonville Theater this summer, coming up next week, actually. She's a veteran middle school theater teacher in Henderson County, has been involved in Hendersonville Theater off and on for almost 20 years. Not sure as to what to highlight, but she did mention that she fell in love with this particular show when it saw it 17 years ago in Chicago. She's always wanted to direct it since then, and we'll talk about her efforts in doing so. I should mention that Rowan is an actor and singer from Greenville, and they perform any chance they get. I love that, Rowan, and have telling stories in any way they can. And some of his fast favorite productions have included songs from New World, You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, Hamlet, a whole bunch of other things. Spelling Bee is Rowan's first production at Hendersonville Theater, and they are thrilled to be telling such a heartwarming and fun story with such amazing storytellers. Let me turn to Heather then first, if I can. And Heather, in terms of acting and directing, when did you get the bug?
I was 3 years old.
You were, okay, and were you in a play then?
I was. It was a church play. It was a Christmas play. My dad played the dad in the story. I was the spoiled kid. I remember this vividly, even though I was only 3.
Okay.
I remember being in this play, and yeah. And then I was typecast from that point
I was
on.
just going to say that. So you've always played a 3-year-old since then?
Well, always the spoiled child, yes.
Okay, is that it? Well, Heather, let me share an idea with you. I've never shared it with you, and Rowan, I'll share it with you as well. It's one of my favorite ideas. If I have a great fundraiser that I want to do at some point in time with Hendersonville, and I've offered to them, where anybody wants to pick it up, but where everybody would do their very first role, okay? In other words, the one you had 3 years old, do they have videotape of it?
No.
Okay, but how cool would that be? You didn't have to do the whole play, but you just have to, a little bit of 5 minutes of it. Wouldn't that be a fun thing to do?
That would be, that's a great fundraiser idea.
I'm telling you, everybody I tell would love to do it. So if you remember, you mentioned to the folks at Hendersonville, and I offered to them, I'd be glad to help you with it. I just think that'd be so much fun. And back to the 3-year-old, do you remember your lines?
I remember saying, but no, Dad, I really want it.
I can't believe you remember it, though.
Yeah.
Too cool. And we'll throw this same question out to Rowan. Do you remember the very first play you ever did?
Oh, goodness. I feel like my first ever role on stage, I played a candy cane in like kindergarten, was like a Candyland themed Christmas show. But my first like real role actually wasn't until college. And I played Maurice in Beauty and the Beast. So that's kind of
Okay.
where I got the full bug.
Well, that's more ascending role, but I love the candy cane role, though. It's just
Right,
something.
right. Isn't that
So
fun?
Heather will be the spoiled 3-year-old kid, and you'll be the candy cane, and just keep that in the back of your mind. But let's progress a little bit with both of you. So Heather, you graduated from being a 3-year-old to what was next in your career?
Well, I did school plays when I was in elementary school. And then we moved to North Carolina, and I got really, really shy, and my school did not have a theater program. So I just did some performances with my church through high school. And then actually in college, I was going to be a math major. I was a math major because I'm a teacher, and I was dead set on being a teacher. That's what I was going to do. But I was going to be a math teacher, and I had to take a humanities course. So I took a performance class, and my professor, wonderful woman, Linda Weldon, she said, you could do this professionally. And I said, oh, I don't I want to be a teacher. Like, that's what I want to do. And that's my calling in life. And she said, well, you can be a theater teacher. And I lost my mind. Like, I thought, I did not even realize that was something that I could do because I didn't have that experience growing up. And I switched my major and I've never looked back. And that's what I do now for a living. I
It's
teach theater.
and it's funny you said that because no offense, but I can't see you ever being shy.
No,
Especially
taken.
no. I don't know if you ever seen her perform, Rowan, but she's really out there when she performs. And so you say you were shy, but so you then started becoming a teacher. Now let me ask you: is this theater teacher still around?
Yes, I am the theater educator at Rugby Middle School in Hendersonville, and I've been there 23 years, coming up on my 24th. And
And amazing! Isn't it amazing what you started at? What 14?
yes,
Was it?
yes, I
What?
was 14 when I started
Yeah,
teaching.
youngest theater teacher they ever had. No, but I meant the teacher you gave a shout out to, and I think that was really cool. Is that person still around?
Yes, yes, she
Okay,
is.
so make sure she gets a copy of this tape
Oh,
because
she will. She will definitely. Hi,
okay,
Linda.
no, I think that's so great that people still keep in touch or recognize that they're teachers. But who would have thunk 23 years ago you'd be teaching theater, and then what got you the acting bug then locally? So you were teaching theater. Were you also acting too?
I was not. I actually, during an Apple festival, my brother was walking downtown, and Hendersonville, at that time, Hendersonville Little Theater had a booth. He stopped by and said, hey, my sister is a theater teacher, and can I get some information for her? And so he said, hey, Heather, there's this show coming up. I think, they were explaining what it was. I think you'd be perfect for it. I went and auditioned and got the role, and I've been with them ever since.
What was
So,
that role? Do you remember?
oh, darn. Um, uh,
Okay,
I don't remember. No, I can't think of
so,
the name of the show. Yeah.
well, what I find interesting though about you, Heather, too, that aside from the acting, you got into the directing bug, and so you direct at school, you direct locally too. Do you have a preference, acting or directing?
Directing,
Okay, and
definitely.
I asked that, Ron, because I asked that of folks, and oftentimes they say directing, but they don't tell the truth.
Mm,
Okay, and the truth is, no, really, truth we can fess up, Heather, but the truth is they don't have to memorize the lines. So they can have everybody else memorize the lines, but no direct. Very few directors ever tell me that. But locally, which is cool. I know you act and direct, and we'll hold on that for just a little bit as we turn to Rowan. The same thing too. So you acted as a young kid, and then you didn't do anything until you got into college. And were you a theater major in college?
I was. So I actually, similar story. I started not math, but I was doing journalism. I really wanted to tell stories, and that's all I really knew about myself. And then I was cast in Beauty and the Beast, which I kind of jumped the gun in mentioning, but I was cast in Beauty and the Beast and was able to enjoy that process. And then I typically tell people that I just never left the theater. I stayed in that little black box for 4 years and fell in love with it and storytelling and acting and all of that after that.
Okay. And so then you graduated college, and then you've been acting locally around where you live. Is that where you do most of your acting?
Yes, I do. I've been on stage several times since graduation. I actually went back to my alma mater to do a role there for them after graduation. But I'm also a costume designer, and I've done several professional costume design gigs since graduation as well.
Okay, cool. Did you design the costumes for the upcoming play?
No, these were done by Janice, who works at the theater, and several others. I think Kathleen was helping, and several who just are on the leadership team at the theater have kind of banded together and made some really cool stuff for this show that I'm really excited about.
Aside from the upcoming show, what's your other favorite role? Do you have a favorite
Oh
role?
goodness. So I actually the show that I went back to my alma mater for was it's called The Good Doctor. It's a Neil Simon play
Oh, I know it. Yeah.
about the life, yes, about Anton Chekhov, and I got to play the writer and just kind of explore Chekhov and Neil Simon and those characters, the writer and the characters there. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. But probably my favorite role to date.
I was going to say for Simon, that was quite a shift, in terms of a
Absolutely,
normal Neil Simon. So
yeah, yeah,
it
absolutely.
was kind of great. Same question, Heather. Do you have a favorite role either you've either been in or directed?
Well, other than this show that I'm directing now, I would say directing Urinetown at BLT several years ago was just such an amazing experience. The show was so hilarious, and I got to work with some really amazing people in that show.
And maybe that's the first time I met you because I do remember that play very well. And I don't recall you directing because I guess I didn't see you on stage. But wow, was that a terrific show, you know? Oh, and it's funny, I won't tell you where else I saw it, but I'd seen it elsewhere. And I thought your production was as good as anything I've seen. You know, it's just so much fun and what was great about it. But let me ask you too, and it shifts a little bit with Hendersonville. In Urinetown, if memory serves me correctly, you had an actual orchestra. Is that correct?
Yes.
With Sarah Fowler was
Uh-huh.
right, we'll give a shout out to her. I don't know about how you feel, Rowan, about this, and I'll ask you in a second. But I have this bug, and it doesn't matter that it's not done anymore. But I love live music. I love live musicals. I love them with a band or orchestra, even a three-piece orchestra, a piano player. Yet you're not seeing it much anymore. Because cost factor. With the one you're doing, will you be using tracks?
No, we have a pianist and
Um,
a drummer.
I'm there. Okay. Oh, I'm so proud of you, Rowan. Because I don't know if you've seen it. All local theaters are doing away with live orchestras. Oh,
Yes.
way to go. Who's the piano player?
Eric Fricky,
Don't know him yet. And the drum.
um, and the drummer is David Bruce.
David's the best. I love David.
And our
But
musical director is Chuck Taft.
the best. Oh, I love it.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yes.
I can't believe it. The reason when I go on this kick, I don't know about you, but people tell me it was cost factor. They can't have, you know, live musicians. Yet it bothers me. You pay musicians, but you don't pay the actors. It always bothers me. But my real thinking, Heather and Rowan, is this. Well, if we accept that same logic, we'll have tracks for the music. Why don't we have you just lip sync the words? And that we don't need actors. We can just have you lip sync. And I'm so happy you're doing this, Heather, because for a local theater, they've just about all done away. Have you seen that where you've acted also, Rowan? Are they doing away from live orchestras?
I've done both ways. I obviously agree. I prefer performing live. It's like having another storyteller on stage with me.
Right.
But yes, I've done both ways. So it just depends on the theater.
But is it more and more local theaters out by you are more and more doing less and less to doing the live orchestras?
I do find that. I think it's more, especially with COVID and all of that. It's easier to have less people and be able to do it that way. But there's a magic to live music.
And you didn't see it, but to Heather's credit, with Urinetown, if memory serves me correctly, you had a pretty big orchestra too on that.
We did. I think we had five
Yeah.
five pieces. Yeah.
Boy, did that rock. It's just a great job. And it's funny, I'm so now looking forward to seeing Rowan and the others in the upcoming show because with just two people, it makes a difference. And Chuck's just a great guy, too. So I'm looking forward to it. And that segues, I guess, Heather, into talking about this and this play you always wanted to do. Why do you always want to do it?
Um, I, so I was in Chicago. We saw this show. It immediately spoke to my heart as a teacher because the whole thing is about middle school age children who are in the spelling bee and kind of their joys and their passions and what's really going on in their heads. And then there's audience participation too. And that just gets me fired up. So any chance that I can involve the audience in a show is a good day for me. So as soon as I saw it, I just fell in love with it. My heart expanded. And then I saw it again here in Greenville, and it was just as good. And it's so full of life and joy, even in the sad moments that happen in the show. It's absolutely an homage to life, and I love that.
And we'll talk about the idea of typecasting, though, is I assume then, Rowan, are you one of the children participating in this?
I am, yeah.
But that, or so are you being typecast there, or are you saying it? Yeah, you're back to being a kid.
I, I'm not sure if I'm really typecast in these roles. I did play Charlie Brown in college, so that's kind of the closest
Right.
that I've had to the type of role that playing a child. But I think I honestly, building off what Heather said, the homage to life. I really value presence, physical presence, and emotional presence, and that's something that I think children grasp more than a lot of adults do. So being able to kind of live in that space, maybe I am being typecast in that, because that's where I thrive. That's where I love to be.
Who are you in this play?
My character is Chip Tolentino. He's the winner of last year's B. He is yeah. He puts a lot of pressure on his own name, and there's a lot to live up to in his own expectations there. But he's a lot of fun.
As a kid, were you a good speller?
Oh, I was a bit of, I guess, grammar police is probably a good term. Yes, I love words and language and punctuation and all of it. So spelling has always been fun for me.
And what's so cool about this, Heather, I'm smiling as I'm talking about it, is that several years ago, everybody did locally spelling bee. Rowan, it was one of the bad things about theater in Nashville is that some theater would do something and then two or three others would do it at the same time. But what's nice now, Heather, it hasn't been done now for at least 6 or 7 years. I don't even remember the last time I saw it. But so it's kind of something I can look forward to because even though I've seen it too many times, it's still a fun. No, I have. Had you ever seen it, Rowan, beforehand?
I hadn't seen it live. I'm very familiar with the music and things like that from the Broadway production.
But you hadn't seen it live. Heather, you seen it a bunch of times?
Yes.
Okay. And so talk about in terms of casting. So we know who Rowan is. If we can give a shout out to some of the others in the cast, if you would, please.
Sure. We'll start with the adults in the show because everybody's an adult, but some of the adults play kids. So the adults playing adults, we've got Andrea Dennis, who is playing Rona. She's a teacher actually at my school. And then we have Gary McLean, who is playing Ponch, the vice principal, who is the word pronouncer. We have Wes Gainey, who's a local musician in Hendersonville. He actually has a gig coming up this Friday, tomorrow night, at the Poe House. Shout out to the Poe House. And then he is playing Mitch Mahoney, the comfort counselor. Really great role, super funny. And then our kids, we've got Rowan, of course, who's playing Chip. I want to point out that Rowan's playing multiple parts. So Rowan is playing Chip, Carl Dad, Jesus, and Olive's dad. All four. So
and let me just hold you a second. Talk a little bit about that, Rowan, because that's one of the always things I've admired about actors, that I've acted just a few things with one or two lines, and I have enough trouble with one or two lines. How is it playing multiple characters?
It's so fun. It's so fun. Being able to kind of inhabit a space where various characters can live, and I can explore the differences and the similarities and finding those moments. It's really interesting in this script, the way that it's worked out, because Jesus is actually scripted to be played by the actor that plays Chip. So that was always planned. And then throughout, we've Heather also asked me to take on the two dad roles, and being able to explore kind of the extremities of those characters and how different the dads are from each other and how different they are from Chip as a child and Jesus as this kind of imagined son of, God kind of moment in the mind of Marcy, one of the other characters. There's so much to play with. And just as an actor, I find that to be such a gift to be able to explore and make choices and just find the fun little moments to find those characters and play all of them together.
What's the most number of characters you've ever played in a play? Have you ever played more than 4?
This is definitely up there. Let me think through. Either 4 or 5. It's either this one and I can't even remember the other show at the moment. I did a series of scenes in a show once where I was a different character in each scene. But past that, I think as far as full shows go, this may be the most.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I missed Hendersonville just did one of the tuna shows, and unfortunately, I don't know how they got to see it. I was going to see it the week it got canceled, but And are you familiar with the tuna shows, Rowan?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
actually, Heather and I went and saw that one together.
Oh, did you? Oh, so like I said, I
Yeah.
was going to see it next week, but they played what 14, 15 characters or something.
So many, so
Yes,
Yeah.
many.
So I'm so sorry I missed it. It must have been great, wasn't it?
it was very fast paced,
Yeah.
great actors. I mean, Victoria Lambert and Jonathan
Yeah.
Forrester,
Mhm.
just wonderful, wonderful performers.
Yeah. I'm so sorry I missed
Ridiculously
it.
talented.
But talk about then, Heather, you too, before we get the rest of the cast. Have you ever played more than one character?
Um, that's a great question. Uh, I don't think I have. I've played characters that have aged up or down, so in different times in their lives. But I don't think I've been in a show where I've played multiple characters.
So now you're making Rowan do this, where, and he didn't have, they didn't have to do it, but they did it, and we'll see how it got carried off. But I stopped you. You were telling about the rest of the cast, if you would, please.
Yeah, so Beth Norris is playing Marcy. Yeah, she's wonderful actress who's
She
been
is.
in multiple times at Hendersonville Theater. Um, we have Allison Starling, who is playing Schwartzy, Logan Schwartzengrubenyear. Just such a wonderful role, so fun, and she's doing a great job with it. Juan Batauro, he is going to be playing Coney Bear, and Kaylee Blasius is playing Olive Ostrovsky. Let's see, and Sahara Calderhead is playing Barthay.
And what's nice about this, Heather, what I'm looking forward to it, is a lot of these folks I don't recognize or have not seen. So one of the things, Rowan, is kind of fun for me is to see local theater. You'll see some people you really know and like, but then to see new people, it's always kind of exciting. And same thing too, is this for you, Heather, some of the first time you've worked with some of these people?
Yes, besides Beth, this is the first time that and Andrea, that I've never worked with any of the others.
Okay. And after this, maybe your co-teacher will never speak to you again, after. Yeah. That's so cool. Had she ever acted before?
She did. She was actually in Seussical, which I directed at Hendersonville Little Theater 16 or 17 years ago. So,
Okay. So
yeah.
so makes a comeback. So it's a pretty large sized. How many in the cast?
There are nine.
Okay, 9. And again, that's something else, Rowan. You're seeing more and more locally. The shows are downsizing. They're having less and less people in them. They'll have, whether because of COVID or some other reason, but they have 2 or 3. So 9 with a 3-piece orchestra. How cool is this? Talk also a little bit about what makes this show so much fun is that people in the audience, and I've been there a couple of times, will actually get a chance to participate. How so? Or do we don't want to ruin it, or should
No,
we?
that's okay. We can
Okay.
talk about it. I'd like Rowan to take, since Rowan's up there with the audience members. Go
Oh,
ahead.
okay. Rowan, if you would. So what does
Yeah,
that involve?
absolutely. Well, to use a little show pun, it's absolute pandemonium. Um, but it's so fun because audience members, to in the most simple way, especially those of you watching who may come see the show, and may have the opportunity to be a part of this. The pressure is not on you. Those audience members get to come and just enjoy and have fun and maybe spell a couple words. But it's one of those things that we really, I think it kind of blurs that fourth wall. And so as characters being able to interact with audience members as just real human people, and to have fun and to be goofy and to kind of play like, myself with Chip, he's 14, and kind of coming into himself as an adult and as a grown up, if you will, and being able to interact with these people is just, it's an opportunity to just have fun and just engage and dance and sing and spell, and just all of those things together just makes for kind of a party on stage. It's a good time.
Talk about if any of us watching this, Rowan, if they want to get involved to be in the on stage, what do they have to do?
Yeah. So before the show every night, we will, and by we I do mean our characters, our children, will be out just kind of greeting people and saying hello and seeing who might be interested. We'll have a little questionnaire sheet, and if I'm wrong on any of this, Heather, correct me. But we'll have a little questionnaire sheet, the things that we'll need to know for you to be part of the show. And once that's filled out, if you're interested, we'll be kind of vetting those people based on the best fit and things like that. Whoever Heather decides to use her directing magic to throw up there with us. And then from there, all of the instruction and everything that you would need to be in the show will come from stage. You'll get all of those instructions from the adults in the show, and even reinforcement that we are able as kids to offer and encourage those people to come up and just be a part.
Now, to put the pressure on Heather, and I don't know if I've ever seen this happen, but have you always been able to get enough people, or would you be confident? You need how many people to come up on stage?
So there are 4 audience members
Okay.
each night.
So
And yes, I feel very confident that we're going to have the audience. This is such a great show. No one should miss this show. So if anything, we'll have too many people. So.
And one of the fun things, Rowan, is to get called up on stage. And I think I've been called up twice. It's just a fun experience to do. But I was offended, I think, once that I could have sworn I spelled the word cat correctly, but somehow I got bounced from, they told me to get off the stage, and I was insulted,
Oh, no.
Exactly.
I'm sure you got a lovely goodbye song.
And I don't know if you folks are doing it, but I think I got a goodbye gift or parting gift. Are people getting parting gifts when they leave?
They will be receiving a little something. I'm not going to say what it is, but
that alone will encourage people to want to volunteer for this, just for that little parting gift. But as you're pointing out, it's so much fun to do that, and again, there's no pressure. And I assume, Rowan, people don't have to learn lines if they get called up on stage?
They just have to know how to ask a couple questions, which they'll know because we'll let them know what those questions are. And just do their best at spelling. We're all competing here. So if we mess up, then I don't know what'll happen. But those audience members have nothing to worry about.
Now, since the show, Heather, have you ever watched the spelling competition on TV? Have you ever seen it?
No, I've seen clips of it. Actually, the last one, the girl who won, that was amazing. Yeah.
It's just, I don't know if you've seen it, Rowan, but it's just a fun thing to watch. Watch these amazing kids spell like crazy. But the incredible thing about the show is, like you said, you don't have to know how to spell. You just want to have fun, and people will. If people want to see the show, Heather, the dates, if you would, and how to get tickets?
Sure. The dates are July 22nd, so it starts next Friday, or this coming a week from tomorrow for us right now. So July 22nd through August 7th. Our Friday, Saturday shows are at 7:30, and then our Sunday matinees are at 3 o'clock. And you can go to www.hendersonvilletheater.org, and that theater is THEATRE.
Spelled the correct way. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. What you do, not where you're at.
And Rowan, talk a little bit about the process, because people, I don't think, realize this who come to see a show, that it's not necessarily like a Mickey Rooney, Judy Garland thing where you just decide one weekend to put up a show and then next weekend, it's already on production. How long have you been working on this?
Has it been a month and a half-ish, a month-ish? It's been several weeks.
And talk about what that entails then. In terms of how often do you have rehearsals and how long are they?
We have pretty much, for this process, rehearsed 5-6 days a week, depending on the week. And typically rehearsals go from like 6:30 to 9:30, and depending on the day, whether we do blocking or choreography or music or a combination of all three. But it's been pretty steady rehearsal for this process, which has been nice.
Okay. And what I think is really nice is how much time and effort you put into this. Hopefully people who are listening to the show or watching it get that, because again, it's so much effort that people put in for 3 weekends of a show, for nine performances, and you spent 6 weeks on it. Before the show, had you talk about learning the material, your lines? Had you gotten the script down before you came to rehearsals?
Not quite. No, it's one of those things. Our off book date, which is just the day when actors need to have all their lines memorized, was last week, and I knew the content, but I wasn't necessarily word perfect until that date. So I've become, the more we work on it, the more familiar I've been getting with it, and now I feel like I know it like the back of my hand and could do it in my sleep.
Okay, and let's talk a little bit after the show ends I'll ask both of you the question, Heather. In terms of what's next on your agenda, do you have anything lined up yet?
Yes. We go back to school in August, end of August, and pretty much immediately after that, I'll be directing our school musical. We do a fall musical every year, and this year we're doing Madagascar Junior. And so that'll involve 50, 60 kids, and we perform the weekend before Thanksgiving.
Okay, so right after you finish this, you go right into another show, and it's a little small cast, 50 or so.
Yeah, it's all involved with my middle school students from rugby, and so it's a big school thing. So
Do you have a problem getting 50 or 60 kids to turn out?
no, we regularly I usually have 100 kids audition, and I have to cut at least half of them almost always.
And that must be, I guess, one of the toughest things as director to have to cut.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
It's so, especially to have to cut kids, um, but we just don't have the room for 100 kids on. I have done a show where I cast everyone who auditioned. I had 102 kids in the show, including backstage and everything, and it was an ordeal. So.
Rowan, the same question in terms of what's next on your performing agenda. Do we know yet?
Yeah, not quite yet. I'm working on it. Got some auditions and things that I'm hoping to get coming up here soon. I'm ready to take a little bit of a break. I've been going pretty nonstop since I graduated last year, but that'll be a very short break, and then I'll be back on stage as quickly as possible.
Okay, and when you're taking a break, you mentioned you do costumes. Do you do anything else? Do you work outside in addition?
Yeah, so I'm actually currently at my day job. I'm on my lunch break. But yeah, I do. I'm a costume designer. I also love set design, and I would love to start directing. That's something that I fell in love with in college and would love to pursue more as my theater career progresses.
Okay, well, we hope to see you in, first of all, the current show, and then we hope to see you in some other stuff in the future, especially if you're in this area. Heather, as always, a pleasure. I'll ask you one last time to give the show date and the ticket information.
Okay, July 22nd through August 7th. I did want to very quickly mention, if you do want to be a part of the show, show up to the theater about 25 minutes early, so around 7:05, so that we can get that interview process going. But July 22nd through August 7th, Friday, Saturday, 7:30, on Sundays at 3. And the website is www.hendersonvilletheater.org, and that's Theatre.
Okay, and the good news is, as both of you pointed out, you don't have to worry about your spelling ability. So to either be on the show or enjoy it, you're going to have a good time.
Absolutely.
And certainly encouraging. I really am looking forward to it, especially with both the cast you put together. But the fact, thank you have live musicians, so I have to thank Hendersonville Theater for that. And I look forward to seeing you both hopefully in the next week or so. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay.
Blaine.